Mighty companions, this is Earl Purdy. Welcome to the Way of Mastery. On Facebook Live, The Way of Mastery with Earl Purdy. We're going to talk about something that we're often asked to do, but we don't often know how to do it. And that is to turn inward. How do we turn inward? What does it mean to turn inward? Mighty companions, it's so good to be here with you. It always feels good to be with my mighty companions. In the Way of Mastery, we're going to cover turning inward. Turning inward is on page 213. In the Way of Mastery, page 213. In the Way of Transformation, lesson 17, turning inward on page 213. Page 213, lesson 17, the journey of the soul. We're in part 2, the Way of Transformation. We're in the Way of Transformation. You need not believe the ideas. You need not accept the ideas. You need not even welcome the ideas. Some of the ideas you may actively resist. Some of the ideas you may actively resist. Some of the ideas you will find quite startling. But remember, you are not asked to judge the ideas at all. You are not asked to judge the ideas at all. You are not asked to analyze the ideas at all. It's the use of the ideas that will give the ideas meaning to you and will show you that the ideas are true. It's the use of the ideas that will show you that the ideas are true. The Way of Mastery. The Way of Mastery. Now remember, my emphasis is primarily on being able to hear what the message is, and so that you'll get a clear idea of what Spirit is trying to say. So our emphasis is on hearing it, letting it in, not spending all this time analyzing it to death. But what is the message that Yeshua is sharing with us? What is the message? The Journey of the Soul, lesson 17, the Way of Transformation. So we're going to start. I want to welcome all of you on live. It's so good to be with my mighty companions and recognize that we're live. You can ask questions. You can make comments. The purpose is to be able to interact with each other. I want to invite you to share the video. Take a moment next to the comments to share the live video so that other people will be able to tune in to what's being said. And so I'm going to go extremely slow. You all know how I do it. It's not about speed. It's really about hearing it. So the first paragraph in the section called Turning Inward on page 213 says that turning inward, this requires a turning about in the seat of the soul. So what does it mean? What does it mean when it talks about a turning about in the seat of the soul? Well, what creates a turning about in the seat of the soul? What creates a turning around in the seat of the soul? Well, the Way of Mastery says that it's talking about a changing of momentum of consciousness. So you've got to change the momentum of your consciousness, not outward, which is where most people's attentions are focused, but inward. So if you're going to turn around the seat of the soul, what do? If you're going to turn around the seat of the soul, you change the momentum of your consciousness. How do you change the momentum of your consciousness? You change the momentum of your consciousness by turning your consciousness inward. Instead of outward, you turn your consciousness inward. Now, What's the purpose of turning your consciousness inward? Well, you're not turning your consciousness inward just to escape from the world. You're not trying to go within so that you can escape from the world. It's not about turning within so that you can escape from the world. As you all well know, it usually takes about 10 or 15 minutes to kind of shake off whatever you were doing before you tuned into the broadcast. And so I want you to take a breath, focus in. I'm glad to be with my mighty companions. I know you're glad to be with your mighty companions. But take a moment to just turn within right now. Take a deep breath and recognize that you're not turning your consciousness inward so that you can escape from the world. It's not something that you have to do all day. Turning your consciousness inward is not something you have to do all day, every day. But at some point, do you know what you need to do on the spiritual path? At some point, you spend time in prayer. At some point, you start spending time in meditation. You don't have to be in prayer all day, every day. You don't have to be in meditation all day, every day. But you start to spend some time in prayer, and you also start to spend some time in meditation. You also spend time in forgiveness. And most importantly, you spend time breathing and you spend time relaxing. So let me tune in so that I can see the comments. So what did we just hear? What did Yeshua just tell us? Well, Yeshua just told us, you know something, gang? You need to turn your consciousness inward and not outward. And you're turning it inward and not outward, not so you can escape from the world, but it's time to start spending some time in meditation. It's time to start spending time in prayer. It's time to start spending time in forgiveness. It's time to spend time breathing and relaxing. So let's take a breath. Take a breath. It is time to spend time breathing. So let's do it right now. Right now. Right now. Let's do what it's saying right now. Let's spend some time breathing. Let's spend some time breathing. Take a breath. Take a breath. It's time to spend some time breathing, and it's time to spend some time relaxing. You also begin to allow changes in the choices that you're making, so that your choices are more into alignment with your growing understanding of yourself as a creator and as a soul. So what do? You allow changes to occur in the choices you are making. If you want to turn inward, what do you allow? You allow changes to occur in the choices you are making, so that the choices you are making are more in alignment with your growing understanding of yourself as a creator, as a soul. What does that mean? Well, you might begin to change your environment as you allow changes to occur in the choices you make. As you make your choices more in alignment with your soul. You may make changes in your environment. You even might paint the color of your walls of your bedroom a different color, if that brings a sense of pleasantness to you. You change your physical environment completely. You might even move into a totally different living location. You may move into a totally different apartment. Many of you know perfectly well that it often means the changing of relationships. What? Yeah, if you allow changes to occur in the choices that you're making based on your growing understanding of who you are, you might need to make a change in your relationships. Sorry, as you wake up to who you really are, you might have to make a change in your relationships because you will start to make choices more in line with your growing understanding of who you really are as a spiritual being. And so that choice may include new choices in relationships. It may mean changes in relationships. It may mean changes in where you live. It may mean changes in the environment that you are living in. Many of you know perfectly well that you know you're in a relationship that may not be the best relationship for you now that you're beginning to wake up to who you really are. Some of you know that you need to make new choices in relationships. And guess what? You know who you are. You know exactly who you are. And initially, this does make sense. It does make sense that you may have to make some changes so that your personal situation is more in alignment with the growing understanding that you're having about who you are right now. Like Craig is saying, he just completed mailing a creditor of a new change of address as of July 1st. Some of you are already beginning to make changes in some form or another. So what did the first two paragraphs tell us? Because like I tell you, I'm not that interested in speed. I really want to hear what I'm being told, and I want to do it. And I want to encourage you to hear it. First of all, turning inward means that you have to change the momentum of your consciousness. And instead of focusing on everything outside of yourself, you start to turn your consciousness looking within. You're beginning to look within, not because you're trying to escape from what's going on in the world. And it's not something that you have to focus on all day, every day. But you do start spending more time in prayer. You start to spend more time in meditation. You start spending more time in forgiveness. And you also definitely start to spend more time in conscious breathing and relaxing. What's the next thing that happens as you turn inward? Well, one of the other things that happen as you turn inward is you allow changes to occur in the choices that you're making. You start to change the choices that you're making. And you start to change those choices that you're making to be more in alignment with your growing understanding of yourself as a creator. See, the average person looks at themselves as a victim, that they're being acted on by forces outside of themselves that they have no control over. You, on the other hand, as a result of your spiritual growth, are beginning to recognize you are a soul. You are a creator. You're not a victim. So you start to make more choices based on the idea that you are a creator instead of making decisions based on the idea that you're just a victim of circumstances. You may make changes in your environment. You may make changes in your relationship as a result. And you know that's okay because now you're beginning to make more choices in your life based on the idea that you are definitely a really cool creator. Now, there is a point in which you realize that you could keep changing relationships and never get anywhere. There will come a time, though, that you may realize that you can keep changing relationships over and over and over again. But until you change your mind, until you change your patterns, until you start making choices based on who you really are as a creator, you're not really getting anywhere. If you go from one relationship to another relationship to another relationship, but you haven't actually changed your mind, you haven't actually started to make choices based on the idea that you are a creator, you're not really changing anything. So you realize that now it's time to settle down. Some of you are going to feel like, okay, it's time for me to settle down, to be with the one that you're with or the ones that you're with. There's no law that says that monogamy is the only way to do relationship, or polyamory is the only way to do relationships, or that there's any form of relationship that's the only way you should do relationships. But you will come to realize that you do want to settle down and you want to focus in on the relationships that you have, and you want to utilize your time with your relationships to discover what patterns have been running you. So when the Way of Mastery talks about not making changes in relationships because you recognize that it's time for you to get in touch with your patterns, you may decide to just stay within the relationship that you're in and utilize that relationship to get in touch with the patterns that are running you in that relationship. Some people would choose to change relationships. Some people will just make a greater commitment to the relationships they're already in so that they can get in touch with their own patterns. Many of you may stop for a minute and understand it's time for you to become more aware of yourself. It's time for you to become more aware of yourself. So you start to turn the momentum of your mind back toward the self with a capital S. What does that mean? Well, it just means it's time for you to ask yourself. Here's the question. It's time for you to ask yourself, why do I think what I think? Why do I think what I think? Why do I think what I think? Ask yourself that right now. Why do I think what I think? Why do I think what I think? Why do I think what I think? Why did I see what I saw? Why do I think what I think? Why do I see what I saw? Why do I react the way that I reacted? So part of turning in and turning your attention back toward yourself, you will begin to ask yourself 3 questions. The 3 questions that you will ask yourself is, why do you think what you think? Why did you see what you saw? And why did you react the way you reacted? So I'm going to take a minute right now to allow us to hear the 3 questions. Here we go. Why do I think what I think? 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 Why did I see what I saw? Why do I see what I saw? Why do I see what I saw? Why did I react the way that I reacted? Why did I react the way that I reacted? Why did I react the way that I reacted? Why do you think what you think? Why do you think what you think? Why did you see what you saw? Why did you see what you saw? Why did you react the way you reacted? Why did you react the way that you reacted? Say it now. Why do I think what I think? Why do I think what I think? Why did I see what I saw? Why do I see what I saw? Why did I react the way that I reacted? Why did I react the way that I reacted? Why did you think? Why do you think what you think? Why did you see what you saw today? Why did you react the way you reacted today? Why did you react the way you reacted today? You know the situation that I'm talking about, and you know who I'm talking to. I'll ask you again. Why did you react the way you reacted today? Why did you react the way that you reacted? Why do you think the way that you think? Why do you think the way that you think? Why do you think the way that you think? In this situation that you're dealing with right now, in this exact situation that you're dealing with right now, and you know what I'm talking about? Why do you think what you think about that person? About that person. You know the person that I'm talking about. Why do you think the way you think about that person? Why do you think the way you think about that person? Why do you think what you think? Why did you see what you saw today in that situation? Why did you see what you saw today in that situation? Why did you react the way that you reacted with that person today? Why did you react the way that you reacted with that person today? Why did you react the way that you reacted today? And you know the situation that I'm talking about. Do you know what you have to eventually do as a soul? The soul is truly committed to awakening. The soul that is truly committed to awakening. What does the soul that is committed to awakening do? The soul that is truly committed to awakening does not flee uncomfortable situations. If you're truly committed to awakening, you don't run away from uncomfortable situations. If you're truly committed to waking up to who you are, what did it tell us? It told us, hey, guess what? You don't run away from uncomfortable situations if you are truly committed to waking up to who you truly are. You do not flee uncomfortable situations until when? Until you believe that you fully extracted all the wisdom that you can. So if you are a soul and you are truly committed to your awakening, you do not flee from uncomfortable situations unless you believe that you fully extracted all of the wisdom that you can get out of that situation. In other words, you don't leave a situation and you don't leave a relationship until you feel like you've learned as much as you can from each other at this time. You don't leave a situation, you don't flee a situation, you don't flee a relationship until you truly feel like you have learned as much as you can from that situation or that person at this time. You truly believe that you fully extracted all the wisdom that you can out of that situation. When you think you've learned as much as you can out of that situation, then it's okay to leave it. If you believe you've learned as much as you can learn out of that relationship, then it's okay to leave it if you choose. If you believe you've learned and extracted all the wisdom that you can out of a situation, then it is okay to leave it. But if you're truly committed to waking up, you don't flee uncomfortable situations until when? You don't flee uncomfortable situations until you feel like you fully extracted all the wisdom that you can from that situation. Repetition is the way that we get this, you all. That's why I repeat things over and over and over again. Our ego mind would love to jump from one sentence to the next sentence, to the next sentence, and the next sentence, and walk away not remembering the doggone thing that we just heard. But I'm going to say it one more time. When is it that you should feel comfortable about leaving a situation or a relationship? You should feel comfortable about leaving a situation or a relationship if you have fully extracted all the wisdom that you can from that situation or relationship. But you don't flee uncomfortable situations or relationships until you fully believe that you've learned as much as you can from that situation or that relationship. Now, there is a way of knowing when that occurs, and we'll get to that a little later. In short, when there is just a quiet sense of peace, and you can look upon the players and the experiences you have just had with perfect equanimity and see those players as perfectly innocent, and you detect that there is nothing in the body that is not at peace, the heart is not racing, the shoulders are not tight, that means you truly understand that you are not in fear, then it's time to move on. Okay. Do you know what we were just told? We were just told by Yeshua, which is another word for Jesus. We were just told exactly how to tell when you have extracted as much wisdom as you can from a situation. And so therefore it's okay to let it go. I'll say it again. When you feel peace, let's say it's a person, okay? So how do you know that you are not ready to flee that uncomfortable situation? How do you know when you have gotten as much wisdom as you can out of that situation or relationship with that person? Well, the first thing is you will feel peace in the presence of that person. You will feel peace in the presence of that person. And you will also look at them with perfect equanimity, which means that you will be seeing that person or that situation as perfectly innocent. And you will feel no conflict or fear in your body. So the way that you can tell when you practice forgiveness and you got the correct perception of a person or a relationship or a situation is that you will feel peace in that situation. You will feel peace around that person. You will see that person as perfectly innocent, and you won't feel a lot of fear and conflict in your body. That's how you will know that you've truly learned as much as you can from that situation. Now, I don't believe at any level we're being told to stay in any kind of I don't believe we're being told in any way to stay in any kind of abusive situation. So don't misperceive what I'm saying. But if you are a consciously evolving being, if you are a soul that is fully committed to waking up, you don't run away from uncomfortable situations. You don't flee uncomfortable situations unless you fully believe that you have learned as much as you can learn in that situation. One of the ways you can tell if you learned as much as you can in that situation or with that person is that you will feel a sense of peace. You will feel a sense of perfect equanimity. You will be seeing that person as perfectly innocent, and you won't be feeling any fear and conflict in their presence. Your heart isn't racing. Your shoulders aren't tight. You truly understand, I'm not in fear. I'm not upset. But you know what? I believe it's time to move on. I believe it's time to move on. I believe I've learned as much as I can from this situation. I believe I have learned as much as I can from this relationship. I'm not fleeing this relationship. I'm not fleeing this relationship because I feel uncomfortable, because I believe that I have learned as much as I can in this situation. How do I know if I have learned as much as I can right now in this situation or relationship? Because I will feel peaceful. I will feel peaceful. I will be looking at the other person or the situation as perfectly innocent. I won't feel anything in my body that's not at peace. I won't feel fear. My heart won't be racing. I won't feel all contracted and tight. I will just feel, you know what? It's just time for me to move on right now. That's what you would be experiencing if you truly are committed to waking up and you have learned as much as you can from that person or situation at this time. I repeat, I'm not saying that you should stay in an abusive situation. Under no circumstances stay in a physically abusive situation. A leader says, let me be a good student of life. Diana says, so maybe searching for turning inward will help. When I've extracted all the wisdom available in a particular situation with someone or something, it's okay to move on. When you feel a sense of peace, when you can see that other person is innocent, you don't feel afraid, you're not uncomfortable in your body around them, you don't feel all tight, and then you decide to move on, then that's okay. You're not fleeing a situation because you're no longer feeling contracted and you're no longer feeling upset in the presence of that person. Now, I'm sure that some people, when they hear this, it's going to throw them into conflict. I want to give you a tip. Resign now as your own teacher. Resign right now as your own teacher. If you keep on insisting on being your own teacher, then you're going to continue the patterns that you have been experiencing. And if you honestly look at the results of what you taught yourself, you will be glad to give your life over to your greater self, your higher self, God, the Holy Spirit. I repeat, resign as your own teacher, because you are not a good teacher of yourself, because you are the one that needs to learn how to awaken. So you need to let your higher self teach you. Your higher self is saying right here through the way of mastery that if you're truly committed to waking up, you're not going to flee uncomfortable situations unless you fully believe you have extracted as much wisdom from that situation and knowledge from that situation as you possibly can. The way you can tell if you have extracted as much wisdom as you can from that situation or relationship is that you will feel peaceful in the presence of that person. You will feel peaceful in that situation. Your heart won't be racing. You will be seeing that situation or the people in that situation as innocent. And you will feel complete relaxation in your body. And you will not be afraid in their presence. And so therefore, if you feel like it's time for you to move on, then it's perfectly okay to do it. That is why I always advise people to have some type of spiritual path, some type of wisdom text that they're using. Stop trying to wake yourself up. You cannot do it. Your little ego self that's in the world, that thinks it can be a victim of circumstances, that still feels separate from God and love, that the you that has the social security number, that thinks that you are a human being going through human trials and tribulations, that will one day grow old and die, that you is not the one that's supposed to be teaching you. So what's happening in the way of mastery is that it's giving us very specific instructions, right? So it's telling us that if there is reactivity in the mind, if there's some type of reaction in the mind because of anything that emerges in your relationship with your brothers and sisters, rest assured the lesson is not complete. So how can you know when the lesson isn't complete? How can you know when your lesson with another person, or how can you know when your lesson with another person? How can you know when your lesson with another person or situation is not complete? There's a lot of reaction in your mind. There's a lot of upset when you're around them. There's a lot of fear. There's anger. There's upset. There's a lack of peace. When you're feeling that in any situation, when you're feeling that with any person, you haven't learned the lesson yet. You haven't learned the lesson yet. That doesn't mean you're guilty or bad if you decide to leave a situation, okay? You're never guilty. You're never sinful. That's not what we teach. This is not teaching us at any level that you're sinful or that you're bad or that you're guilty, okay? So that's never an issue in any of my classes. You're never guilty. You're never sinful. So don't even go there. What's happening in the way of mastery is it's trying to let us know how to tell when we have actually completed with a relationship, when we've learned the lesson. When you have learned the lesson, you won't be reacting in a crazy way to the person or situation. When you learn the lesson, you will feel peace. When you learn the lesson, your heart won't be racing. When you learn the lesson, you won't be afraid. When you learn the lesson with that person or situation, you will see their innocence. So when you hear stuff like this, it may make you realize that you don't have probably very many complete lessons with darn near anybody. When you hear this, you might go, oh my God, I haven't learned my lesson with any friggin' body, because I'm upset with a lot of people most of the time about one thing or another, and I'm trying my darndest to get as far away from that joke as I possibly can. So, I got a little work to do. That's cool. And you're right. You do have a little work to do. We all have a little work to do. I think that's one of the things that makes it a challenge for people to study spiritual truth. Because when you study spiritual truth, you can't stay in denial about where you are. I'm sorry. When you study the spiritual truth, you're going to find out exactly where you are as opposed to where you think you are. So I'll say it again. You haven't learned the lesson with any person or in any situation when you still get upset when you're around them, when you still feel a lack of peace when you're around them, when your heart is racing, when you don't feel complete relaxation in your body, then you still haven't learned the lesson in love that God would have you learn. But even if you do decide to move on anyway, you're still innocent, because the lesson will just present itself again through the next relationship that you give yourself. The lesson will present itself again through the next situation that you go into. All right? So you might learn as much as you can from one person at that time and appear to separate. But just remember, if you have a lot of reactivity, anger, and upset around that person, then there's still something within your own mind. There is still some pattern within you that has not been healed yet, even if you take up that pattern with somebody new for you to learn with. How can you tell when you've learned the lesson? How can you tell when you've fully extracted all of the wisdom you can out of any situation or relationship? When you have gotten to the point that you feel total peace, you don't get upset, you don't get mad, you're not afraid, you're not freaking out when you're around that person, but you might just choose to move on. That's how you can tell. No, that you're saying, my fiance says he's not feeling peaceful, etc. around me, that he's not feeling fearful, etc. around me, so should he leave? No, I'm glad you said that, because that's not what it's saying. Just because you're not feeling upset with somebody doesn't mean you're supposed to necessarily leave them. You stay as long as you want to in any relationship that you're in. Just know at the point that you're feeling peace around a person, it's okay if you stay and it's okay if you go. Because at that point, you've learned the lesson. Because the lesson is having peace and love with each other. If I have total peace and love with you, then I've learned the lesson. Because the lesson is how can you have love and peace with everything and everyone around you. Doesn't mean that you will necessarily leave them, but it does mean you've learned the lesson. That's all it means. So if you choose to go, you're innocent. If you choose to stay, you're innocent. That's the truth. In any situation, that's how you can tell when you've learned the lesson. When you don't have any animosity and you feel peaceful on the inside, then you know it's okay to stay and it's okay to go. But in most cases, I think if you're really experiencing love and kindness and joy, you're probably going to stay and still learn lessons with other people, because you wouldn't be in a relationship that would be trying to limit you from learning other lessons in love with other people who are other parts of yourself. No truly holy relationship is an exclusive relationship where love is not extended to anyone else other than the person that you're with. When love is only extended to the person that you're with, that's a fear-based relationship. Love is supposed to be inclusive. Love is irresistible. Love, I'm talking about love. I'm not talking about sex. I'm talking about love. I'm not talking about sex. I'm talking about love. Love is inclusive. Love is inclusive. Love is not exclusive. Love is not exclusive. Do you know that true love is not exclusive? There's no such thing as true love that only involves one other person. That is a fear-based, error-based, ego-based perception of what love is. Okay? Now, you may be only having sex with one other person in a relationship. In the way most of us do sex, that's probably a gift that you're giving everybody, that you don't do it with anybody but one person, at least. And that's just one person that's dealing with the way that you do it. So anyway, but you might be an expert. All right. But love is inclusive. Love is inclusive. Okay. Now, how can you tell when it's time? How can you tell when it's okay to move on in a relationship and when it's okay to stay? Very simply, you feel peace with that person. You feel cool around them. So you may choose to stay, but if you choose to go, that's okay too. If there is reactivity in the mind because of anything that emerges in your relationship with your brothers and sisters, rest assured, what? The lesson is not complete. If your principles have been violated, rest assured there is much to learn. Okay. Remember always that all events are neutral. So what is it that the Course in Miracles, not the Course in Miracles, I teach it so much, it's just a habit. What is it that the Course in Miracles says this too. The Way of Mastery says, all events are neutral. Every event in your life, every event is neutral. Every single event that is happening in the world right now, every single event that's happening in your life right now is a neutral event. I don't care what has happened to you today since you woke up this morning. It was a neutral event. In large measure, the process of awakening is a process whereby you dissolve the value you have placed upon certain ideas. So what is awakening? It's a process where you dissolve the value you placed on certain ideas and certain things. You wake up as you dissolve certain values that you have. The awakening to love, the awakening to who you really are, happens as you begin to dissolve certain values and certain ideas that you have about what life is and what life is for. So let's hear that. Okay, when is it? What is the process of awakening? What is the awakening process? The awakening process is a process whereby you dissolve certain ideas that you have about what life is and what life is for. Yes, there are going to be times you will be troubled. Did you hear that? Listen to me now. There are going to be times that you are troubled. So stop tripping. Stop tripping every time you get upset. Stop tripping every time you get upset about something. It says it right here, Earl. There are going to be times when you will be troubled. There are going to be times when you are going to be troubled on the spiritual path. And when you're in the process of awakening, there are going to be times when you are going to want to kick butt. There's going to be times when you feel troubled. There are going to be times when you will be troubled. Read my lips. In the process of spiritual awakening, there will be times when you will be troubled. There will be times when you will be troubled as you come to realize that what you thought the world was for and everything you have been putting your energy into means nothing. Okay, let me hear that. Okay, we were just told you're going to be troubled sometimes. And what's going to cause the trouble, what's going to cause you to feel troubled at times is you're going to come to realize that everything you thought the world was for and everything that you've been putting your energy into means nothing. A person is going to feel troubled because they're going to realize they've been putting their energy into things that really have no value. There will come a time on the spiritual path that you will realize that you have been putting a lot of your energy and a lot of your time and investing a lot of your energy into things that don't mean anything, things that don't really have any real lasting value at all. And that's going to make you feel troubled. There will be a feeling of trouble sometimes because you're going to realize that you're putting a lot of energy and a lot of attention into something that is nothing, that doesn't have any real value. Because the truth is, the only thing that has real value are things of consciousness, things of spirit, and things that last, and things that never, ever, ever end. The only thing that has any value is something that is permanent. The only thing that truly has value is something that is permanent. Nothing temporary has lasting value. There's nothing that is temporary that is truly, ultimately valuable, unless you're going to use that temporary thing to move you towards something permanent. So there's going to be a time that you feel upset on the spiritual path because the spiritual path is not supporting most of the things that you value, like power, personal power at an ego level, like money, like specialness, like physical pleasure. Power, money, fame, physical pleasure. None of these things ultimately last forever. So there's a point on the spiritual path that a person begins to feel troubled because they recognize that they're putting a lot of importance and value on things that are really valueless. Okay. Often this precipitates a period of what has been called by certain mystics the dark night of the soul. So what is the dark night of the soul? The dark night of the soul is when you come to realize that what you thought the world was for and everything that you have been putting your energy into means nothing. So the dark night of the soul is when you recognize that you have been valuing things that really have no value, that you've been valuing relationships that really have no value. That's the dark night of the soul, when a person really begins to recognize what they have been doing to themselves. It is really not the dark night of the soul. Do you know that? It's really not the dark night of the soul. It's really the dark night of the ego. The dark night of the part of you that thinks it's separate. The ego. But it's really the healing of the soul. What you call the dark night of the soul, do you know that it's really the healing of the soul? Okay, so what is the healing of the soul? The healing of the soul is when you start to recognize what's truly valuable and what's truly valueless. When you recognize that only what's permanent and eternal is valuable, and what is temporary is not ultimately valuable. That's a healing for the soul, but it really bugs the ego. It really bugs the human mind. The human mind, the separated mind, is absolutely addicted to things that are temporary and things that do not last, because the human being is someone that usually thinks that they do not last. So since I am temporary, it would make perfect sense to me to spend all my time focusing on what's temporary. And everything in this world that I perceive is temporary. So I'm always trying to get some temporary thing in the world. And I think this temporary thing in the world that I'm going to get is going to make me happy. Then I start to wake up spiritually. And I begin to recognize as I wake up spiritually that putting all my attention into things that are temporary is putting my attention into things that are really meaningless and nothing. And then the ego part of me, the part of me that's been taught to value the things of the world, that part of me gets upset because it thinks that this is another spiritual teaching, just trying to tell you that you shouldn't enjoy or have anything in the world. And it's not. It's just saying, guess what? I don't care how much you enjoy an ice cream cone. I don't care how much you enjoy an ice cream cone. You know the ice cream cone is not going to last. But if you thought you were licking on an eternal ice cream cone, then you're going to be hurt when the ice cream melts. And that's all the Way of Mastering the Course in Miracles and all true spiritual books are trying to teach us. You just need to see things for what they really are. That pain comes from deceiving yourself. And if you think the ice cream is going to last forever, then you're going to end up crying one day, because no ice cream lasts forever. And this world is one big ice cream cone. And if you think that this is going to last forever, or that anything in here is going to last forever, then you're going to be hurt one day. You're going to be disappointed one day. And that's what your human self is going to call the dark night of the soul. Your human self is going to be really depressed, thinking that there's nothing in this world that you can focus your attention on that's going to give you lasting happiness. But let me tell you something. There's nothing in this world that you will focus your attention on that's going to last forever. So there's nothing in this world that can satisfy you forever. But that does not preclude really enjoying everything in this world. You can enjoy ice cream all day, as long as you don't go crazy and think the ice cream is never going to melt, or that the ice cream is going to always be there. It's your misperception of ice cream that causes the pain. And that's what you must realize. As long as you value things that do not last, and you put all your attention into things that do not last, you are setting yourself up for some level of disappointment at some point. And then you're going to call that the dark night of the soul. But actually, when you come to the realization of what's truly valuable, that's really the healing of the soul. That's the healing of the soul. Okay, let's go to the next paragraph. So what does the way of transformation require? What does the way of transformation require?
Well, let's see what the way of transformation, requires. The way of transformation requires the utmost personal responsibility. Transformation requires taking the utmost responsibility, utmost personal dedication. So in order to really and truly transform, you must take personal responsibility, and you should have personal dedication. And guess what? Nobody can do it for you. 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 Nobody can do what for you? Nobody can take personal responsibility for you. Do you know that a lot of people get into special relationships because they want the other person to be responsible for their happiness? Do you know that a fear-based person, a person that doesn't know the truth, is always trying to form friendships and relationships with people who they think are going to make them happy? Let me bust the bubble. Nobody can make you happy. There's not a person on the face of this earth that can make you happy. There is no one, not a single solitary being on the face of this earth that can make you happy. And it's selfish to put that kind of responsibility on another person. That's you not taking responsibility. So the way of transformation requires the utmost personal responsibility, and the way of transformation also requires dedication. There are too many students on the spiritual path that treat it like a hobby. Your spiritual path is not a hobby. Your spiritual path is not just for entertainment purposes only. You don't just watch this class and listen to this video and join just for entertainment purposes only. It's great if you enjoy it. It's great if you feel entertained, but I'm not here to entertain you. I'm not here to entertain you. You're not here to entertain me. Now, we may end up entertaining each other, but that is definitely not my purpose. I don't get ready to do my class and go, well, how can I entertain everybody that's getting ready to watch me? No, I'm not. What I'm here to do is to learn how to take utmost personal responsibility and be a means for other people to also transform by wanting to take utmost personal responsibility. I'm also here because I want to meet with other brothers and sisters who are dedicated. Dedicated. It's not a hobby. It's not something that you just do every now and then when you don't have anything else to do. It's something that you are totally committed to. It's the most important thing in your life is your relationship with God and your relationship to wake up. I actually don't have the slightest bit of interest in teaching people who look at this as a hobby, who look at it as entertainment, who look at it as something you just do every now and then when you don't have anything else to do. I'd rather have 10 people that the Holy Spirit has sent me who also want to be dedicated and committed than to have 1 million people who are just not really into it. And they're innocent. You're innocent. I'm not criticizing you. I'm not judging you. I'm just asking for what I want. I want other brothers and sisters that are just as much committed to their awakening as I am or more. So I want to take personal responsibility for my experience. I want to become personally dedicated. And I know that that's true of some of you out there. Some of you are watching from the entertainment curiosity perspective, which is innocent, but there are a lot of you out there, hundreds and hundreds actually, out there, because there are literally easily over 1,000 people that are always watching. And so I want you to know you have a lot of brothers and sisters watching this with you right now. Some of them, most of them actually, are just observing, and they're not making comments, and they're not saying anything, but they're right here with us. So we are a mighty tribe. We are mighty companions. We are not alone. So the patterns you feel weighed down by, the fears that are yet within the mind will remain with you for all of eternity. So all the fears that you have will remain with you forever. Do you know that all the fears that you have will remain with you forever? For how long? Until you decide to heal them. Your fears and upsets and lacks and grievances, they can follow you for an eternity unless you are finally ready to heal all your fears and any patterns that you feel weighed down by. And that's what we're together for. We're together so that we can help each other not be weighed down by our patterns. Do you know that we are with each other so that we will help each other not be weighed down by our fears? Because we don't want to be afraid and we don't want to be upset forever. From that desire. From what desire? The desire to not be weighed down by your patterns. The desire to let go of the fears inside of your mind, because you don't want to go in eternity getting upset about everything around you. So we are together to heal. So if you really want to heal, if you're sincere about healing, that means if you're sincere about letting go of your patterns, that means that if you're sincere about letting go of your fears, if you're sincere about letting go of your patterns, if you're sincere about letting go of your fears, I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. Do you want to know? Do you want to know? I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen when you are ready to let go of your fears. I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen when you're ready to let go of your patterns. You will attract the situations. You will attract the teachers. You will attract the teachers, the books. You will attract the experiences that provide for you the opportunity to heal your patterns. A person that's sincere about healing, a person that's sincere about getting past their patterns, a person that is sincere about getting past lack and guilt and separation from God and upset. You can always tell when you're sincere. You can always tell when you are dedicated, because when you're dedicated, you attract the situations that give you the opportunity to heal. When you are dedicated, you attract the relationships that give you the opportunity to heal. When you are dedicated, you attract the teachers that give you the opportunity to heal. When you are dedicated, you attract the books that give you the opportunity to heal. And most of all, when you are dedicated, you attract the experiences that provide for you the opportunity to heal. If you're shucking and jiving, if you're playing around, if you're not sincere, then you will not attract the situations, the teachers, the books, the experiences that give you the opportunity to heal. I'm just telling you how it is, brothers and sisters. I'm just being straight up with you. If a person's kidding around, then they don't attract because even if they were attracting it, they wouldn't perceive it. Even if they were attracting it, they wouldn't notice it. That's why some people have to change relationships. Because when you get serious about being happy, when you get serious about only knowing peace and love, you're not going to want to be in relationships and friendships that are full of drama all the time. Many of our brothers and sisters are just drama kings and drama queens. I'm telling you, they haven't made the decision to heal yet. They believe that they don't deserve to be happy yet. So they keep some kind of drama going on all the time. They keep something happening all the time. But when that person says, you know what, I am ready to wake up, I am ready to transform, then they are saying, I'm ready to take personal responsibility, and I'm ready to dedicate myself to my transformation. I am ready to take utmost personal responsibility, and I am ready to dedicate myself to transformation. And if that is indeed the truth, then you're going to attract. Notice I said you didn't have to go out and hunt it down. I didn't say you had to go out and find your soulmate or find this job or go out and get this or get that. The way a master says, from that desire, you will attract the situations. From your desire to heal, you will attract the teachers, the books, and the experiences that do what? Provide for you the opportunity to heal. Woo! My goodness. So I want you to take a breath, 30-minute breath break. Brothers and sisters, let me share this with you. The way of transformation requires utmost personal responsibility. The way of transformation requires the utmost personal dedication. No one can do it for you. 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 No one can do it for me. No one can do it for me. No one can do it for me. No one can do it for you. No one can do it for me. No one can do it for you. No one can do it for me. No one can do it for you. And the patterns you feel weighed down by the fears that are yet within the mind will remain with you for all eternity until you decide to heal them. I've decided to heal my fears. I've decided to heal my fears. I decided to heal my fears. You have decided to heal your fears. You have decided to heal your fears. I have decided, say it to yourself. I have decided to heal my fears. 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 I have decided to heal my patterns. 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 I desire to heal. I desire to heal. And that's going to attract the situations, the teachers, the books, and the experiences that will provide that opportunity for you. All right, we're at the 1 hour mark. So those of you who an hour is enough for you, I'm glad you tuned in this much, but I'm going to continue. I do between an hour and 90 minutes, depending on how Holy Spirit is telling me to go. The Holy Spirit is telling me, keep going, that there are some people right now that they're with me really, really deeply. Doesn't mean if you have to go, you're not. But I'm going to tell you, I'm seriously committed to my awakening. I am dedicated to my awakening because I want to attract the people, the situations, the circumstances that provide me the opportunity to know love and to know God and to know peace. Now, there is an acceleration of the healing process. Do you know that there is an acceleration of the healing process? Only when you completely release any valuation on victimhood. That is the belief that somehow, in some way, someone or something has done something to me. So how do you accelerate the healing process? How do you accelerate the healing process? How do you accelerate the healing process? You accelerate the healing process by letting go of the idea that you are a victim. You accelerate or speed up the healing process by letting go of the idea that somebody's done something to you. Somebody's done something to you. If you want to slow down your awakening process, If you want to slow your awakening process down, keep saying that somebody did something to you, that you're the victim of something or someone. No matter how justified you may feel, if you keep telling yourself that you are a victim, if you keep telling yourself that you are a victim, then you are not accelerating the healing process. You are slowing your healing process down. I'm not saying that you didn't experience things that were painful maybe in the past. I'm not saying that you didn't experience something that was maybe painful through someone in the past. What I'm saying is, if you want to speed up your process, if you want to speed up your healing process, then you have to let go of constantly saying to yourself that, understand that if you have to go, it doesn't mean that I think you're not committed or that you don't appreciate what's going on. I'm never judging you. I'm not a part of the old paradigm that's based on guilt. That is not what I do as a teacher. I do not ever want you to feel guilty about coming or going or whatever you choose to do, because I don't want that put on me either. So I'm letting you know I appreciate any amount of time that you spend watching my classes and presentations. It's just that I also feel like going deeper and going further also. And you can always watch the rest of it later. So, how do you accelerate the healing process? The way that you accelerate the healing process is to remind yourself to stop saying that somehow, some way, someone or something has done something to you. Now, that is a simple thought to hear, right? And when I say that you need to let go of the idea of being a victim, it's really easy for people to nod their head. One of the things that I notice in teaching and counseling is that one of the quickest reactions that people give me when I'm sharing the truth with them, whether it's in a session or whether it's in a class, is they'll say, I know that. Oh, yeah, I know that. I know that. Well, if you really knew it, you wouldn't be going through the challenges that you're going through. If you really knew it, you would have total peace. So it's not true that you already know that. It's not true that you already got it. It means you're just practicing. And that's okay. You can practice saying the truth before you actually mean it. But if you're miserable and unhappy, and then someone says, well, your misery and unhappiness is coming from you seeing yourself as a victim, and you go, well, okay, I know that's what it is. No, you're practicing saying to yourself that you know that's what it is. If you really knew that you were not a victim, you would feel completely centered and powerful and peaceful in dealing with any situation and every situation that comes up in your life. So you can't be full of fear and upset and really be practicing the truth. So it's easy to nod your head when you are told that it's seeing yourself as a victim is the problem. It's another thing to look honestly. It's another thing to look honestly upon your reactions in life to make sure that you're not at any time perceiving yourself as a victim. What do you have to do? You have to look honestly at your reactions and try to make sure that you're never seeing yourself as a victim at any time. Okay. All right. So if I'm getting angry at you, would that be me seeing myself as a victim? Yes. If I feel afraid of something happening to me, would that be me seeing myself as a victim? Yes. I have to look honestly at my reactions to make sure that I'm not at any time seeing myself as a victim. Now, how do you get past victim consciousness? How do you get past victim consciousness? Well, the way that you get past victim consciousness is the practice of extending love. And the practice of extending love can often teach you that you are not a victim. When you take a situation that pushes your button, when you take a situation that pushes your buttons, when you take a situation that pushes your buttons and you decide to not run away from it, when you decide not to run away from a situation that's upsetting you, when you decide not to flee from a situation that's pushing your buttons, when you decide not to flee from a situation that's pushing your buttons, this teaches you the truth of your reality. Okay, so how do I learn the truth of my reality? How does a person learn the truth of their reality? When there's a situation that's pushing their buttons, they try not to run away from the situation. They try to see, what is this situation teaching me about my patterns? What is this situation teaching me about my patterns? How can you tell when it's okay to flee a situation? Well, that's when you think you've learned as much as you can from that situation. And it's also when you feel perfect peace in that situation or around that person. And it doesn't mean that you stay in abusive situations. And it doesn't mean that you're guilty or bad if you decide to leave that particular person or that particular situation. And the reason why it doesn't matter if you stay or if you go ultimately is because you'll recreate that situation in another relationship. And then you'll get a chance to learn that lesson through somebody else. And sometimes it's easier to learn a lesson through another person. Maybe because you don't have as much projection on that new person as you had on the old person. But just be honest with yourself and realize that if something is pushing your buttons, that means that there's something inside of you that you need to take a look at. And the purpose of that relationship is to get you to get in touch with whatever that pattern is. And that's the way you learn the truth about your reality. That's why the practice of forgiveness is extraordinarily valuable. So the thing that is most valuable is the practice of forgiveness. I always have to give another definition of forgiveness than the definition that most people believe. Most people believe that forgiveness is trying to overlook what somebody did to you. True forgiveness is not about overlooking what you think somebody did to you. True forgiveness is not about trying to let go of something that you think somebody really did to you. True forgiveness, make sure my battery is running low. Let me plug it in. True forgiveness has nothing to do with trying to overlook what you think somebody did to you. Okay. Okay. All right. Here we go. True forgiveness has nothing to do with trying to overlook what you think somebody did to you. True forgiveness has nothing to do with trying to overlook what you think somebody did to you. True forgiveness is you having the correct perception of a situation or circumstance, and the correct perception of a situation or circumstance is that you are not a victim. So true forgiveness is really going beyond seeing yourself as a victim. True forgiveness is going beyond seeing yourself as a victim. So that's one definition of true forgiveness. So true forgiveness is extraordinarily valuable. In fact, you could say that ultimately the practice of forgiveness is the whole practice of spirituality. Spirituality is the practice of forgiveness. Forgiveness is correct perception. Forgiveness is true perception. Forgiveness is correct perception. When you forgive somebody, you're correctly perceiving them. You're seeing them as who they really are. You're going past your fear. You're going past the guilt. You're going past the anger. You're seeing them as a spiritual being that's having a human experience, a spiritual being that has an ego just like you have an ego, a spiritual being that is also learning lessons just like you're learning lessons. So the whole spiritual path is about forgiveness. Why? Because forgiveness means to let the world off the hook. Let the world off the hook. What does that mean? To let the world off the hook means to step out of any sense of victim consciousness. To let your friends, relatives, parents, and yourself off the hook means to step out of any sense of thinking that you are a victim. Forgiveness is letting go of any idea that you are a victim. You are a powerful creator. You're not a victim of anything. You're a powerful creator. So forgiveness means to let the world off the hook, to step out of any sense of victim consciousness. And then even beyond that, to forgive oneself. You got to forgive yourself for the perception that you have to forgive yourself for all of the perceptions that you've made in error. Forgive yourself for every misperception you've ever had about yourself or anybody else. Forgive yourself for any misperception that you have ever had about yourself or anyone else. Forgive yourself the perceptions that you have of your brothers and sisters. Forgive yourself for the misperceptions that you've had of the world. And most of all, forgive yourself for the misperceptions that you have had of God. So, I forgive myself for all of my misperceptions. I forgive myself for all of my misperceptions. I forgive myself for all my misperceptions. All right, mighty companions. I'm going to do a quick recap so that we can get the main points that we heard
This was awesome. I got so much out of this. I hope you got a lot out of this. I got a lot out of this. I would like to thank you and ask you, as a full-time teacher, if you feel and see value in what's coming through me, and you feel moved by spirit to make a financial expression of appreciation, I truly, truly, truly appreciate that. And if you want to make a financial expression of appreciation, then go to my website, earlpurdy.com, www.earlpurdy, that's PURDY.com, and you can make a financial expression of appreciation that would be greatly appreciated by me. I'm available for one-on-one counseling sessions called Clarity Sessions, where I show you how to, I've been doing this for 40 years, I'll show you ways to make this practical and apply it to your personal situations. I've also been a divine astrologer and numerologist for over 40 years, and it is another way to get information from the universe in terms of helping you really move forward in your experience. Open your mind, and you will find that you'll attract the situations, circumstances that will allow you to be healed. If you go to my website, earlpurdy.com, it explains my clarity sessions and my services in detail. On Thursdays at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, I do hardcore Course in Miracles that's especially geared toward people who are studying A Course in Miracles and want to take advantage of the almost 40 years that I have been studying and teaching the Course in Miracles to save you some time. On Sundays, 1 p.m. Mountain Time, I do on Facebook Live. All this is on Facebook Live. I also do a Course in Miracles class. And on Tuesdays, we have our Way of Mastery group at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. You don't have to be a member of Facebook to watch my live broadcast. Just go to this Earl. This is Earl telling you what Earl to go to. www.facebook.com/Earl Purdy Live. That's all you have to go to or recommend to people. Go to www.facebook.com/Earl Purdy Live. I need your help. I want to extend my teaching ministry. When you share these videos on your Facebook page, and it really helps extend this teaching ministry, and I ask for your help in doing that. It only takes 30 seconds to share the video, if that long. Okay, here we go. I love you all coming online live and communicating with each other and communicating with me. I see all your comments and I read all your comments, and I also respond to them. So let's do a quick review. All right, here we go. When you get a chance, you want to spend some time in meditation and prayer. You want to look within. You want to turn your attention within. Spend some time breathing and relaxing. You may make some changes as you begin to wake up. You may start to make new choices based on who you really are. You might have to make changes in relationships or maybe even where you live. And at first that may seem to make sense. Sooner or later, you are going to make a realization that to keep changing relationships doesn't really make much sense at a certain point. And you will want to settle down, and you will want to use your relationship to get in touch with the patterns that you have so that they can stop running you. Then you will ask yourself these 3 questions. Remember the 3 questions? Here we go. Why do I think what I think? Why did I see what I saw? Why did I react the way that I reacted? Why did I react the way that I reacted? When you are truly committed to waking up,
You don't flee from uncomfortable situations. When you're committed to waking up, you stay in the situation that's not physically abusive, if at all possible, until you have learned as much as you can learn from that situation. And then you may choose to move on. How can you tell if you have learned as much as you can learn from a person or a situation? When you have learned as much as you can learn from a person or situation, you will feel peace. You won't feel uncomfortable in their presence. Your heart will not be racing. You will not be experiencing any form of fear. But let me tell you something. If you're still getting upset all around that person and around that situation, that means your lesson is not complete. But that doesn't mean that you have to necessarily stay in that situation with that person. Just don't fool yourself into thinking that the lesson is complete when you're still getting upset. I want you to remember that all events are neutral. All events are neutral. And there's going to be a time when you go through the dark night of the soul. And when you go through the dark night of the soul, it's going to be when you begin to realize that you have been putting all of your attention into things that are not valuable, things that are not permanent, like love, like truth, things you can always count on, but maybe you've been caught up in the values of the world, and then you will go through the dark night of the soul. But it will actually be the dark night of your ego and not the dark night of your soul. When you recognize that only love is valuable, only what's permanent is valuable, that is the healing of the soul. Do you know that the way of transformation, it requires the utmost responsibility, the utmost dedication. And remember this, no one can do it for you. And when you decide to heal, when you decide I've had enough, I've reached my limit, I'm ready to heal, I'm ready to wake up. When you are ready to heal and ready to wake up, when you're ready to heal, when you're ready to wake up, you will attract the situations, you will attract the teachers, you will attract the books, you will attract the experiences that provide you the opportunity to heal. When you become sincere about healing, you are going to attract the people, the teachers, the situations, the books, the experiences will be provided for you that will allow you to heal and to let go of your blocks once and for all. Just be sincere about healing. Just be sincere about healing. So how do you speed up the situation? How do you speed up your healing? How do you speed up your healing? The way you speed up your healing is to stop saying that someone, in some way, someone has done something to me. I want to let go of the idea that someone has done something to me to speed up the healing process. You want to make sure that at no time are you seeing yourself as a victim. Are you seeing yourself as a victim? I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not the victim of the world I see. I'm not the victim of the world I see. I'm not the victim of the world I see. Say it. I'm not the victim of the world I see. I am not the victim of the world I see. I am not the victim of the world I see. I am not the victim of the world I see. Now, if you practice forgiveness, it's time to wake up when you're ready to practice forgiveness. That will be the time to wake up when you practice forgiveness. True perception, correct perception. Forgiveness is correct perception. So what is the correct perception? What is the correct perception? What is forgiveness? What is forgiveness? What is the correct perception? I'm going to give you the correct perception. I'm going to give you the correct perception. I'm not the victim of the world I see. You're not the victim of the world you see.
We're not the victim of the world we see. We're not the victim of the world we see. I'm not the victim of the world let's say it. I'm not the victim of the world I see. Claim it. I'm not the victim of the world I see. Claim it. Claim it. Claim it. Claim it. Let's go. I'm not the victim of the world I see. I'm not the victim of the world I see. I'm not the victim of the world I see. You're not the victim of the... Thank you, mighty companions. You're not the victim of the world you see. You're not the victim of the world you see. Why do I think what I think? Why do I think what I think? Mighty companions, you are blessings in my life. You are awesome. We really turn inward this evening on this broadcast. Please share it. I love you. Did you hear me? I only have two feelings toward you. I either love you or I want to love you. I'm either loving you or I want to love you. So I'll see you soon, mighty companions. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here. Thank you for appreciating me as a teacher. Thank you. I appreciate you as my teachers. I love you. I am so blessed to know you. May the course be with you.